Anyways, 10/24/2025 now is currently 10/20 or 12/26 of 2025. Almost a week away from the New Year's, and we're really just enjoying a little bit of weather today. With a slight rain. Pretty enjoyable though. Nice, cool. I want to say like 50 degrees, 57 with some precipitation. I have a shower car, but I don't know if I want to use it. What happening? What happening this weekend? We have FaZe Clan starting to leave, with a lot of conspiracy theories in between. Some interesting news about transgender women being starting to being attacked. Rabbit always wants new food. His bucket that I fill with food is halfway full. He's always asking for more new food. I think I'm spoiling him too much. I'll get him more in a bit, but a lot of news that I get bad. A lot of negative news that I receive always comes from like the older generation. Transgender women is a woman. Disagree 50%, but the largest demographic disagreeing is always the older generation, those who hold bigoted values anyways. Those who agree that transgender women are 18 to 29-year-olds. Always the older ones that are always bringing in the negativity. Not only in the modern or everyday social climate, but also the political climate as well. Such as the Palestinian genocide. More than likely, older generations are too propagandized by the Israeli propaganda. So, not surprised over this news. Was doing something. This by Brian Allen. I really like Brian Allen. He can really good. Former Special Counsel Jack Smith is demanding that Jim Jordan release a full video of his Judiciary Committee testimony. Stephen says the American people deserve to hear directly why he believes Donald Trump committed these crimes, not filtered talking points or political spin. Release the tapes, transparency, or admit the cover-up. The Honorable Jim Jordan, Chairman, Committee on the Judiciary, U.S. House of Representatives, Washington, D.C. 20515. Dear Chairman Jordan, yesterday our client Jack Smith testified before the committee for approximately 9 hours regarding the investigation into President Donald Trump's alleged unlawful retention of classified documents, the obstruction of justice, and role in attempting to overturn the results of the 2020 elections. Mr. Smith welcomed this opportunity and hopes that it will serve to correct the many mischaracterizations about the work of this special counsel's office. Mr. Smith respectfully requests the prompt public release of the full videotape of the depositions. Doing so will ensure that the American people can hear the facts directly from Mr. Smith, rather than through secondhand accounts. We also reiterate our request for an open and public hearing. During the investigation of President Trump, Mr. Smith steadfastly followed Justice Department policies, observed all legal requirements, and took actions based on the facts and the law. He stands by his decisions. Thank you for your consideration of this matter. Look forward to cooperating with you to provide the public with the opportunity to hear directly from Mr. Smith regarding his work. I read all that and I barely retained any of the information. Let's see. So 9 hours for patients. Over 2 items as well. The documents and the obstruction. So January 6th. Yeah. Prompt public release a full videotape of his deposition. Being so will ensure. Yep. I would love to see that video. Maybe not the full 9 hours. I would absolutely love the outcome, being what plays out. What else is going? And that'd be crazy to. Or if Donald Trump really gets indicted and investigated over the classified files and the January 6th coup attempt, I think my faith would be partially restored for this. Could I see it happening? Yeah, I could see it happening. The outcome we probably wouldn't like. Aiden Ross admits to lying to Donald Trump during his 2024 presidential run when asked if he liked Israel.
Was hyping him up in the stream, and he asked him if he was pro-Israel, and he was like, "Yeah, of course."
This Israel, you're Jewish. Are you a fan of Israel?
Yeah. You got me there.
It would have never happened. October 7th would have never happened.
Aiden Ross.
Hold on, chat. He got me there. Look how this terrorist treats his animals. I mean, he got that shit clip. It's like sometimes I forget, but I was capping.
What is it? What is this for? What is it?
I mean, he got that shit.
Oh my god, a fucking grift. Grift in plain sight. He doesn't give a fuck. All for the money. Oh, this is exactly what I was talking about earlier to one of my friends. Aiden Ross reveals that Faye's clan members left because they were alleged being asked to sign a contract that required them to give 20% of their earnings. 20% is fucking crazy, by the way. Can't wait to hear Adap's perspective, as he's been through the worst parts of Faye's. Pulling on him being literally robbed by the old owner. I can't imagine what must have happened to make him leave now. After 14 years, absolutely. Honestly, an Adapt doesn't need Phase. Phase is Adapt. Phase is Adapt. Adapt's not Phase. Phase is Adapt. Without Adapt, you have no Phase. After 15 years, that's crazy. Another sign of a dictatorial leadership. A federal judge just blocked the Trump administration's attempt to strip attorney Mark Zaid of his security clearance. Zaid represented the whistleblower whose complaint triggered Trump's first impeachment. The court just told Trump he doesn't get to punish lawyers for exposing him. Legal pushback like this can slow down politically motivated clearance revocations, but won't stop broader policy shifts. That's crazy, though. that's all my addition to that. That's crazy. No, but really, it's just another case of fascism. Fascism in the sense where any direct action and conversation against the administration is attacked legally. There's gonna be a certain part where the legality won't even matter, and they will forcefully lock up lawyers and judges, which I think happened recently, by the way. I think there was a U.S. citizen that was just deported, and they were like a lawyer as well. Deported. What the heck? I don't want to subscribe to the Washington Post. A 12-foot ladder. Let's see. Paywall. I pass. No thanks, mates. VO1. Probably a bot. No, thank you. Oh, wait, by the way, that's here. Gotta open chat Reno to open inlay for mates VO1. Real user. Yep. Cool, dude. expand this spot. Just a now. Yeah, wall remover. Ain't paying for all that. Okay. MD. Woman faces deportation, is a citizen, lawyer says. I might get another fucking. This crazy. Detained December. A 22-year-old woman was arrested by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement officers this month and is facing deportation despite her lawyer's insistence that she is a U.S. citizen born in Maryland. I says the woman is in the country illegally and is not a citizen. Case landed in federal courts last week, where Maryland District Court judge barred the government from deporting Dulce Consuelo Diaz Morales, while the court considers a petition her lawyer submitted to determine whether her detention is lawful. According to her lawyer, Victoria Slatin, Diaz Morales lived in Mexico for about 13 years, but has a birth certificate from the Prince George's County Hospital and immunization records from Anne Arundel County, all of which has been provided to ICE as evidence of her citizenship. The Washington Post has viewed emailed photos of the documents, including a Maryland birth certificate with the name Diaz Morales on it, but cannot verify their authenticity. Affidavits of multiple people who were at the hospital following Diaz Morales' birth were also sent to ICE. That's Latin, whose pleas for the woman's release have gone viral on social media. I also call a hospital myself, Slatin said. Because of HIPAA, we couldn't get a full release of her records. We're working on that right now, but they were able to confirm that they had a patient with the name that in that general time period. According to her lawyers at Sanabria and Associates, a firm specializing in immigration law, Diaz Morales was arrested December 14 while living at Taco Bell in Baltimore with her younger sister. After being held in a detention center in Baltimore, Diaz Morales was transferred last week to Richwood Correctional Center in Monroe, Louisiana. Department of Homeland Security, using a different last name for Diaz Morales, that she was in the United States illegally. Dulce Consuelo Madrigas Diaz is not a U.S. citizen. He is an illegal alien from Mexico. DHS spokesman Tricia McLaughlin said in a statement emailed to the Post she did not provide a valid birth certificate or any evidence in support of her claim that she is a U.S. citizen. On December 14th, ICE arrested this illegal alien in Baltimore. On October 20th, 23, when CBP encountered her near Lukeville, Arizona, Madrigal Diaz claimed she was a citizen of Mexico born in October 18, 2003. McLaughlin did not answer questions about where Diaz Morales is, who has a 5-year-old son, was being held, or whether she had already been deported. DHS did not respond to specific questions sent Tuesday about why it determined the birth certificate and other documents sent by Diaz Morales' lawyers were not valid. The department also did not answer questions asking whether there was a mistake or misunderstanding about the documents that resulted in Diaz Morales' arrests. They don't give a fuck. They don't care anymore. At least they had, before, they tried to seem like they cared. Deporting any brown person and then claiming it's another brown person. At least they had decency back then. Some sort of shame. Now it's just like you can't there's no way to like counter this legally at this point because it's like they don't care. They just fucked up that we got to this point. Getting stressed over this. Crazy how the fuck this happens every single. And then they get so surprised when people start fighting back. It's like, what do you expect is gonna happen when you're dragging people off the streets, claiming they're different people, and then deporting innocent people? You know, don't be surprised when people fight back. You know, and it's like not even just simple dragging and taking away. It's like militaristically, militaristically taking people away. They're using pepper spray. They're using tear gas, which is uh, a Geneva Convention banned substance. They're also using rubber bullets, which are also lethal. They can be lethal if they're hit in the wrong location. So all legality is being thrown out the window. Off center here. Uh, we encourage investigations on this, including by ICE, because we believe the facts and law are in our favor, she said. According to her lawyers, Diaz Morales moved from US to Mexico with her family in 2009 or 2010, returned in 2023 to escape cartel violence. They said she was stopped by immigration officers when she re entered in the US. In January, she received a removal order from the Justice Department Executive Office for Immigration Review. The orders Latin said, by the way, in 2020, when was this? In January, so right when Donald Trump entered office. So this was planned out way before, as in, what was that? Was it Project 2025? They had everything on there, ready to go. The orders Latin said holds no standing because the agency does not have jurisdiction in over U.S. citizens. I want to reiterate that these circumstances do not strip a U.S. citizen of their citizenship. Citizenship by birth is not through travel. Lack of documentation, emergency reentry, or any ruling by the EOIR, Slatton said. In a news briefing Monday afternoon, Diaz Morales' lawyer said that they could not confirm her whereabouts and that all of their efforts to reach her or determine why she has been held have been unsuccessful. On Tuesday morning, her lawyers said they were told they had been moved to DHS detention facility in Texas, but they still have not been able to speak with her. Latin said she posted on TikTok about the case because she hoped to bring more attention to her client's plight, which she described as egregious. She was not surprised the post went viral because she said people are worried that the government will start deporting people even if they are citizens. That's my issue there. Why are we waiting? Why are we waiting? They're going after citizens. You know, you should be concerned when they start deporting the undocumented in the first place. Because it's just a piece of paper they give you. That is almost the literal sense. It's just a piece of paper. Not even to mention why there's undocumented in here. 95% of the time, it's because America was bombing their home country. So this is almost like penitence that the American government has to do, you know? We bomb their country, we receive their immigrants, or we receive their refugees, and we should take care of them. And even if they weren't part of a refugee, just moving here, they deserve to have everything the American citizens do. Lawyer for Diaz Morales says they are continuing to collect evidence, including her elementary school records and additional medical records, to gain freedom for their client. ICE has discretion to release her anytime she wants. She is not being held for any criminal reasons, Len said. We will continue to demand her release. At that point, it's just extortion. It's extortion. Like, what do they want? Money? What does ICE want? They already gave them the birth records immunization as well. So this isn't even just a legal thing at this. This is a way from the legality. So it shouldn't be surprising that the Trump administration is already trying to take away security clearances for judges who are actively in a lawsuit against the administration. Oh man, future is amazing. Give us a good Catholic president. Got any in mind? Nick Fuentes. He could probably win in a few years. I think so much of a Nazi. Too much of a Nazi to be in the presidential seat. And like what I mean is too openly, too forwardly. There's too many pictures and images of him. I'm pretty sure there's even him throwing a salute somewhere. Not even like surprised if there is. As racist as America is, Americans do not like to be called racist. Like, you could have a KKK member and call them racist, but they'll push back on it 100%. Music is and it's just true. Getting here.
You'd think we'd have more presidents. The Catholics.
Yeah, they only had one.
Biden,
Right?
too.
Oh, Biden's Catholic.
We got Biden.
Allegedly.
True. We only got one. He got shot. And then Biden was doing auto sign. Give us a good one.
Yeah. You got anybody in mind?
Fuentes.
Nick Fuentes?
Oh, he's fucking around. 100%.
He could probably win in a few years.
Hold on, let's talk.
Listen, he couldn't have existed before.
Shane Gillis is trying to be funny. Trying to make a joke. He knows Nick Fuentes can't win. But Rogan, I don't think he understands that. He's just like, yeah, I could see that. No. What else is...
Right?
Let's come
10,
out.
20 years ago, couldn't have existed. Now, super popular. What's 20 years from now look like? You know, maybe
Yeah.
someone like that can win.
Popular is kind of a strong word. More of a lolcow, if anything. It's rare for any online personality to take him serious. You get the racist Hispanics to like him, those who really want to be considered white. Other than that, it's really they're a strong minority who actually like him.
Well, we'll see.
I gotta pee so bad. We gotta wrap this up anyway.
I'm
Sorry,
down.
4:18.
We got that one at the buzzer.
Yeah. Well, listen, I will say this about it. It's fascinating to watch that there's like a whole group of people that feel very unrepresented in the world. and especially like young
Ooh.
men. And here you got this young guy with a very high verbal IQ, and he also does a lot of shit posting, a lot of talking shit, a lot of trolling. Says women shouldn't be allowed to vote. Says why?
I wouldn't say young men are unrepresented. I would rather say that there's finally some pushback, some people actually pushing back against white young, or not even white, but young men in general. Because to be fair, like, young men have had it really good for a long time. Society has not, like, they haven't really been demonized. And it's not even direct attacking that's happening nowadays. It's more like take some accountability for actions. Because who hasn't heard the phrase, "It's just boys being boys"? That was a big saying back in like 2016. It's just now we're calling for accountability, which is fair. It should be happening.
Wild shit. And that Piers Morgan thing is like, bro, that was like an expert sparring with someone who thought they were an expert.
Sure.
Like they're playing two totally
I
different
agree.
games.
And it's also the thing that people try to get Fuentes on is that he's still funny as fuck.
It's funny.
So that's where you're in a lot of trouble.
When he hits him, do you think you made jokes about the Holocaust? He goes, too soon? Like, dude.
Yeah.
And you could see
He's wild.
You could see Piers going, oh fuck.
Bro, when he was like, me mom died.
They're giving him too much credit. He's not funny. I don't know. I don't know. It wasn't that funny. Maybe if you're a sociopath. Because let's be honest, Joe Rogan's like he's not a very empathetic or sympathetic guy.
Like, holy shit.
Bro, he got hit. He got hit with a missile on that one. Too soon? Too soon, I was like, oh my God.
I don't know if this
It's due for war.
You'd think we did.
Another win for billionaires. America's richest tech titans reap $550 billion windfall from AI surge. America's richest tech bosses raked in more than $550 billion this year as an AI-fueled market frenzy sent their fortunes soaring, pushing their combined net worth of the top 10 U.S. tech founders and execs to nearly $2.5 trillion by Christmas Eve. So if you weren't already upset how the AI industry is destroying fertile lands, destroying water sources, absolutely making the towns and cities surrounding these data centers driving them mad with the sound, the just straight up pollution, everything, to even the electricity bill. Remember who profited off of them. The staggering total, up from $1.9 trillion at the start of the year, reflects Wall Street's all-in bet on artificial intelligence, according to Bloomberg data. The surge came up as the S&P 500 climbed more than 18%, with gains heavily concentrated in tech stocks tied to AI chips, data centers, and cloud infrastructure. Really, he's like, yep, what do you expect? Silicon Valley's elite have been the primary beneficiaries of the hundreds of billions of dollars pouring into AI hardware and computing power worldwide, even as recent months brought to jitters about a possible artificial intelligence investment bubble. This is all speculative and correlated to the success of AI. Jason Furman, a Harvard economics professor and consultant for OpenAI, told the Financial Times. There is a huge question mark over whether this is going to pay off, but investors are betting that it will. Elon Musk remained the world's richest person, with that his net worth jumping nearly 50% to $645 billion. He briefly lost the top spot in September, but was helped by reclaiming it by a $1 trillion Tesla pay deal approved by shareholders, and a surge in valuation of SpaceX to $800 billion. Google co-founders Larry Page and Sergey Brin were among this year's biggest winners as their fortunes rose 61 and 59% respectively. The search giant made significant strides in its in-house AI models and chips, led by rapid upgrades to the Gemini model. Those combined gains convinced Investors Alphabet was back at the front pace of AI race, helping drive sharp stock gains that padded the net worth of both Page and Brin. Page ended the year with about $270 billion, while Brin sat near $251 billion. Oracle founder Larry Ellison also saw his wealth soar after the company unveiled a $300 billion data center deal with OpenAI, but investors' doubts over how Oracle would finance the massive build-out later dragged the stock down 40% from its September peak, trimming some of those gains. Another standout was Nvidia boss Jensen Huang, whose company became the world's most valuable publicly traded firm with a market capitalization of above $4 trillion. Huang's net worth climbed to $156 billion, even as filings showed he sold more than $1 billion worth of shares this year. Several tech titans cashed out along the way. Also, this is so disrespectful for those who actually built the Empire State Building. Many people lost their lives to make this. Like, actual workers' hands actually went into building the Empire State Building. None of these guys put their hands on any part of where their money came from. They signed papers, yes, but they didn't actually build anything. Jeff Bezos sold about $5.7 billion in Amazon stock, while Michael Dell unloaded more than $2 billion worth of shares in Dell Technologies. He and his wife, Susan Dell, pledged earlier this month to donate a historic $6.25 billion towards funding so-called Trump accounts for 25 million American children. While Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg gained more than $28 billion in wealth year-to-date as of Friday. He nonetheless slipped down the rankings after a pullback in the company's stock as investors fretted over its massive spending on AI infrastructure and pricey talent deals. The only thing that keeps coming up to mind is the AI bubble. Let's see. So, Nvidia as the biggest bubble here. So they're funding XAI, funding Figure AI, Mistral AI, most of the incoming money. How Nvidia and OpenAI fuel the AI money machine. Hardware, software investments, venture capital. Okay, so that's why venture capital, that's why these are growing. Money's going into them. And hardware, software. So the year there, I think this is all based off like stocks too. All the money going in and out, or it's based off stocks and not actual uh like backed money or like capital. OpenAI inks the 300 billion cloud with Oracle, deal with Oracle. Where's the money coming in from Nvidia? I think the money that came out of this, or that first started this, all of this was not only our own investments, as in purchasing their products, but also the shareholders. And what I'm more interested in, who gets affected by this crash? Who loses out more? And today, is there an AI bubble, and what happens if it bursts? Try to increase this like frame. Investor Michael Burry, famous for predicting and profiting from the 2008 housing market collapse, has set his sights on another sector. Many believe it is too big to fail. That is absolutely not true. Big Tech's multi-trillion-dollar artificial intelligence spending spree. It's the latest headline-grabbing play from the investor whose original audacious bet was immortalized in Michael Lewis's book, The Big Short. With Wall Street's recent AI-driven gains drawing comparison to the dot-com era, questions about market fragility are resurfacing, just as The Big Short film marks its 10th anniversary, and Barry's original housing bet hits the 20-year mark, leaving many wondering if we're witnessing unprecedented economic growth or precursors to another bubble. Many experts agree that something bubble-like is taking shape, says Itay Goldstein, a financial crisis expert at Wharton School, but there's more to it than that. What makes a bubble a bubble? At its core, a financial bubble occurs when asset prices rise significantly higher than fundamental value, says Goldstein, adding that an asset is anything people buy because they expect it to hold or gain value over time, such as a share of stock, a house, a bond, or even cryptocurrency. A challenge with fundamental value, however, Goldstein says, is that it is not fixed, universally agreed upon number. Its calculation is subject to debate because it depends entirely on the financial models and assumptions used. For example, two investors can look at the same company, its future earning power, risks associated with it, and the like, and reach very different conclusions about what its stock should be worth. So there's nothing backing it. There's no real backing for how these values are determined by the investors, I guess. So at its core, a financial bubble occurs when asset prices rise significantly higher than the fundamental value. Okay. So the investors are the ones creating the bubble, while the real value, or the real value is the actual physical products. How much money is being brought in because of them. Bubbles usually begin when investors buy because they genuinely believe something is undervalued. Over time, as price keeps rising, the motivation shifts, says Goldstein. People stop asking, what is this worth, and start asking, how much higher can it go? Bubbles don't always wreak havoc on the broader economy, Goldstein says. The danger, he explains, lies in exposure. How many people and institutions are tied to a particular asset or sector, and how much they have borrowed to finance those bets. As an example, he notes the dot-com bubble of the late 1990s was painful for investors but relatively contained for the general public. It was mostly a story about private capital chasing internet startups. He says when it burst, households didn't lose their homes and the banking system stayed intact. But by contrast, the housing bubble of the 2000s had far reaching consequences. Today, more households own stock through individual brokerages and retirement plans than in the late 90s, and many of these funds are heavily weighed towards large technology companies. This bubble is concentrated in Magnificent Seven, the biggest tech companies that drive much of the S&P's 500 daily price moves. Goldstein says if their valuation falls, a lot of their portfolios are going to take a hit, even for people who think they are just passively saving for retirement. Seeing a bubble is easy, making money off of one is hard. Contrary to popular belief, bubbles aren't always invisible in real time, says Goldstein, noting that many experts warned that the assets were overpriced prior to the dot-com boom and housing market collapse. But he says as asset prices continue to rise, counter-arguments emerge, claiming this time it's different. New technology is altering the fundamentals. These dueling narratives made it particularly tricky and risky for investors to make a move because identifying a bubble is one thing, predicting when it will pop is another, he explains. Betting against a company or sector, he says, is a time-sensitive action. And the most common way to do so is creating a short position. This involves borrowing an asset, for example, shares of stock from a broker, and immediately selling it at its current price, in hopes that the price will fall in the future. If the price drops, you buy it back at a lower price, return the borrowed share, and your profit is the difference. Goldstein says, for example, if an investor shorted a stock at $100 and later bought it back for $60, it would make a $40 per share. The catch? The stock price can continue to rise, so if it rallies from $100 to $150 or more, the short seller is still obligated to buy back one day to close the position. On top of that, he says, shorting often comes with an ongoing interest fee for borrowing the assets. So if the price is increasing and the fees are accumulating, an investor could get priced out of the position. Okay, you know what, I want to know what would happen to the everyday citizen. I guess it really matters if any regular, anyday person has investment into it. So I mean, pretty much anybody who invested in AI will lose out. Apparently, what I feel like is going to happen is when the AI bubble pops, everyday citizens will not be affected immediately, but only later on when the government bails out these companies. When the government, instead of letting these companies die, will put money into it, increasing taxes for the everyday American, increasing taxes on all electronic items. AI will still be subsidized. But hopefully AI just goes away. The general use of AI, hopefully it goes away. Like the ChatGPT bots, the AI bots, any of that will just melt away slowly. I mean, that's like the best we can hope for. Yeah, that's pretty much it for AI bubbles. Until next news, we will see. Water after that chocolate. I gotta get rid of these chocolates because they are making me more. I wanted to read this French paper about the El Salvador prison conditions. There was a lot like regarding like Hillary Clinton, but I didn't give a fuck about her, so there's no point of covering her. But mega prison El Salvador, faced with accusations of torture, President Nayib Bukele threatens to release all prisoners. The conditions of detention within this mega prison are the center of the debates in the United States, since the broadcast of the CBS reports on the subject has been blocked. Salvadorian right-wing President Nayib Bukele on Tuesday dismissed accusations of torture in El Salvador's high-security mega prison, which includes Venezuelan migrants deported from the United States, threatening to release all prisoners, including gang leaders. The conditions of detention in this CCOT Terrorism Containment Center have been at the center of attention since the American channel CBS blocked this weekend the broadcast of a report on the consequences of the brutal expulsion carried out by Trump administration to this high-security prison. Responding to former U.S. Foreign Minister Hillary Clinton, who called her brutal. Oh, weird translating from French thing. You are convinced that this is really torture is being committed at CCOT. El Salvador is ready to fully cooperate. We are ready to release all of our prison population, including gang leaders, all those qualified as political prisoners, to any country willing to welcome them. The only condition is simple: it has to be everyone, he warned. What a weird predicament to really. Oh, I can't read this. It's French to English is hard to. Fuck. If I can find the. Low key, I am using ground news because I like how all different news publications are put together here. Find it again. Abe. Yellow response. Thing is, he doesn't even deny it. He doesn't even say like, you know, oh, it's all fake. He's just like, oh yeah, come check it out. But President responds to allegation by former Secretary of the State Hillary Clinton about the conditions at the terrorism confinement center, the country's maximum security prison that has received immigrants deported from the United States. Was it Hillary Clinton or was it the actual investigation by 60 Minutes? Bukele was responding to a post on X by Clinton that was accompanied by an 11-minute video of the PDS Frontline documentary Surviving CCOT. Curious to learn more about CCOT, she wrote, "Here, John Andre and Wilmer share firsthand how the Trump administration branded them as gang members without evidence and deported them to the brutal El Salvadorian prison. The short documentary tells the story of three Venezuelan men, Juan Jose Ramos, Andre Blanco Bonilla, and Wilmer Vega Sandia, who were deported by the Trump administration to CCOT. A description of the short film states, all three men were branded by the US government as Tren de Aragua members, which they deny. In response, Bukele said his country was ready to cooperate if Clinton thinks people have been tortured in the notorious prison that houses many of the country's gang members and migrants deported from the US. We are willing to release our entire prison population, including all gang leaders, and all those described as political prisoners, to any country willing to receive them, he wrote. The only condition is straightforward. It must be everyone. Okay, do it. Do it. Fuck it, dude. Do it. The fucking sweep against all people. There are innocent people who are getting tortured. The thing is, he's not even denying these accusations. He's not even like, it's not true that they're being tortured. But they are being tortured. This would greatly assist journalists and your favorite NGOs, who would then have thousands of former inmates available for interviews, making it far easier to find additional voices, thousand voices critical of the Salvadoran government, or willing to confirm whatever conclusions are already expected out of Bukele. Surely, if these testimonies reflect a systematic reality, a much larger pool of sources should only reinforce the claim, and many governments should be eager to offer protection. Until then, he continued, El Salvador will continue prioritizing the basic. Will prioritize the human rights of the millions of Salvadorans today who today live free from gang rule, Bukele said. Bukele solidified his relationship with Donald Trump, offering to house certain migrants deported from the U.S. at CCOT. The U.S. has deported Venezuelan migrants deemed to be gang members to El Salvador after their home country refused to take them back. A federal judge on Monday ordered the Trump administration to provide due process to a class of Venezuelan migrants deported to El Salvador in March and gave it 2 weeks to detail how it will do so, setting up another high-stakes clash between the White House and the federal courts. Yeah. This is like, they don't even talk about the actual stories. Like, they were held up in torturous conditions. Like 15 people cramped in a small room. People living on the floor next to rats. Food having maggots. Not receiving enough food. It was torturous conditions. And I believe it was even a torture method, like being held in a tiny box. By the Human Rights Watch. You have arrived in hell. Torture and other abuses against Venezuelans in Salvador's mega prisons. Let me zoom in a little more. Or make sure it's like in between pieces. Okay. Let's see. The nightmare became the moment they took me off the plane. Gonzalo Y., a 26-year-old from Zulia State, Venezuela, July 31st, 2025. The United States removed Gonzalo and 251 other Venezuelans to El Salvador in March and April 2025. When the plane landed, officers forced him and others to kneel with their heads down, he said. He told one of them that he had a spine problem and could not keep his head low, but one officer struck him with a baton in the back of his neck. On a bus to the maximum security prison known as the Center for Terrorism Confinement, Centro de Confinamiento de Terrorismo, CICAT. Guards beat him again, he said. When we arrived at the entrance of CICAT, guards made us kneel so they could shave our heads, Gonzalo said. One of the officers hit me on the leg with a baton and I fell to the ground on my knees. Everyone, he said, was subjected to the same treatment. The prison director told us, "You have arrived in hell." In CICAT, guards and riot police beat and abuse Venezuelans constantly. The guards beat me as many times in the hallways of the prison module and in the punishment cell, Gonzalez said. They beat us almost every day. And mind you, there were innocent people as well. Most famously, the hairdresser here we go. This same guy, Andre Hernando Romero, released from El Salvador prison. Yesterday, Andre Hernando Romero, the gay makeup artist and asylum seeker, wrongfully disappeared by the Trump administration. There was a long legal battle to release him. He was completely innocent, not whatever they said he was, and yet he was still tortured. He went through the same treatment. I believe he was even part of this literal group of the 251 being that were contained in CICAT. The Venezuelans were held in incomunicado in CICAT maximum security prison for approximately 4 months until July 18th, when they were sent to Venezuela as a part of prison exchange between El Salvador and Venezuela. This joint report by Human Rights Watch and Crystal Sal provides the most comprehensive account to date of the treatment of these people endured during detention in El Salvador and includes the first detailed account of the treatment of detainees in CICOT. We interviewed 40 people who have been held in CICOT and another 150 people with credible knowledge of the experiences of the Venezuelan detained there, including relatives and lawyers. We reviewed a wide range of documents, including photographs of the injuries, criminal records, and judicial documents in El Salvador and the United States, and also consulted international forensic experts. The governments of the United States and El Salvador accused most of the people being terrorists, part of Tren a Venezuelan organized crime group that the United States has designated as a foreign terrorist organization. This has little weight to it, let's be honest. The US designating anything has so little weight because they just said the Antifa, a non-legitimate group that doesn't exist. Antifa doesn't exist. Antifa is a mind, is an idea, anti-fascist. And this government wants it to be banned? You're just pro-fascist now. Like, this is... You're just one step away from just straight up saying it that they're fascist. We're fascist, you're a fascist. They just might as well just come out and say it. Where were we? Background documents indicate that many of them had not been convicted of any crimes by federal or state authorities in the United States, nor in Venezuela or the Latin American countries where they lived. Human Rights Watch and Crystal Sal found that 252 Venezuelan were subjected to the amounts of arbitrary detention and enforced disappearance under international rights law. Gonzalo's mother said her son called her on March 13 from immigration detentions in the United States to tell her he was going to be deported to Venezuela, where he would give her the birthday hug he owed her. I held on to that promise, but he did not arrive, his mother said. As the days passed without information, she felt unbearable pain. The family called multiple detention centers, but the U.S. authorities denied information on his whereabouts. They only said he had been removed from the United States. About a week later, a friend told Gonzalo's mother that he had found Gonzalo's name on a list published by the media outlet naming Venezuelans who had been sent to CICOT. She searched videos and photos of the deported men, hoping they would recognize him, but she didn't find him. From that moment, everything went dark, she said. All I felt was anguish, pain, anger, and despair. Human Rights Watch and Crystal Sal found that the people held in CICOT were subjected to inhumane prison conditions, including prolonged incommunicado detention, inadequate food, and denial of basic hygiene and sanitation, limited access to healthcare and medicine, and the lack of recreational educational activities in violation of several provisions of United Nations Standard Minimum Rules for Treatment of Prisoners, known as the Mandela Rules. We also documented that detainees were subjected to constant beatings and other forms of ill treatment, including some cases of sexual violence. Many of these abuses constitute torture under international human rights law. People in CICOT said they were being beaten. They were beaten from the moment they arrived in El Salvador and throughout their time in detention. Guards and riot police beat them in the hallways of the prison module and in solitary confinement cells in a section of CICOT known as the Island. They beat them during daily cell searches for allegedly violating prison rules such as speaking loudly with other detainees or showering at the wrong time, and sometimes for requesting medical treatment. And Bukele said that there is no torture happening. And he's saying that the torture is not happening. There's tons of investigations go. There are first-hand accounts, and he's denying that. He didn't even deny it. He's just saying, "Oh, Hillary Clinton this, Hillary Clinton that," playing the same rule book as Trump. Instead of addressing the actual claims, goes on by saying the same thing that Trump says about Biden. Biden this, Biden that, Hillary Clinton this, Hillary Clinton that, and people are gonna eat it up. People are gonna eat it up like fucking spaghetti on a clean platter. People held in Sikot said that many detainees were also beaten after U.S. Secretary of Homeland Security Kristen Noem's visit in March, following visits by International Committee of the Red Cross in May and June, after two prisoners' protests occurring in April and May. Human Rights Watch and Cristosal concluded that the cases of torturing and ill treatment of Venezuelan in Sikot were not isolated incidents by road guards or riot police, but rather systematic violations that took place repeatedly during their detentions. Every former detainee interviewed reported being subjected to serious physical and psychological abuse on near daily basis throughout their entire time in detention. These beatings and other abuses appear to be part of practice designed to subjugate, humiliate, and discipline detainees through the imposition of grave physical and psychological suffering. Officers also appear to have acted on the belief that their superiors either supported or tolerate their abusive acts. There's no other way to label it. Torture is probably the perfect description of it. I'm not. The response that I'm thinking of that people will probably use is that, what about the innocent people that were under the control of the gangs? It's like, and that's not. That wouldn't have happened. The whole takeover of gangs, the gang takeover would not have happened if the United States had not intervened in the Civil War. The United States left El Salvador as a war-torn country, allowing a power vacuum to put these gang leaders in place. Nobody deserves to be tortured. Sure, they can be held in jail, but not be beaten, not be tortured or starved. Nobody deserves that. Like, I understand, like, their country was definitely in a terrible position, but doing a sweeping operation, grabbing every single individual, innocent and guilty put together, that's not the way to do it. That's why due process is a thing. And due process should be a thing everywhere. It shouldn't be just the United States. I don't believe the El Salvadorian government has that in place. But due process is completely important. Or no matter who, everybody should have their time in court. If it doesn't, then it's a dictatorship. I mean, Nayib Bukele has called himself a dictator. Daniel B., for instance, described how officers beat him after he spoke with the ICRC staff members during their visit to Sikot in May. He said guards took him to the island, where they beat him with the baton. He said, a blow made his nose bleed. They kept hitting me in the stomach. When I tried to breathe, I started choking on the blood. My cellmates shouted for help, saying they were killing us, but the officers, they said, just wanted to make us suffer, he said. 3 people held in Sikot told Human Rights Watch and Crystal Sol that they were subjected to sexual violence. One of them said that the guards took him to the island where they beat him. He said 4 guards sexually abused him by forced him to perform oral sex on one of them. They played with their batons on my body. People held in Sikot said sexual abuse affected more people, but victims were unlikely to speak about what they had suffered due to stigma. All forms of torture. The human rights violations documented in this report violate El Salvador's obligation under international law, including the prohibition on arbitrary detention, enforced disappearance, and torture, and other ill treatments. U.S. officials repeatedly denied relatives of people sent to seek out information on their whereabouts, making the U.S. government complicit in their enforced disappearances. The U.S. government also violated its legal obligations to respect the principles of non-refoulement by transferring Venezuelan migrants to El Salvador despite easily foreseeable risks of torture and ill treatment. Many people who were held in Sikot said they continue to suffer lasting physical injuries and psychological trauma. I'm on alert at all the time because every time I heard the sound of keys and handcuffs, it meant they were coming to beat us, one of them said. The Venezuelans who were detained in Sikot have been since returned to their home country. Venezuelans suffer a humanitarian crisis and systematic human rights violation carried out by the administration of Nicolas Maduro, which have compelled nearly 8 million people to flee. Some of the people held in Sikot had fled abuses by the Maduro government and its security forces and faced the risk of persecution in Venezuela. The repatriation to Venezuela violates the principle of non-refoulement. Additionally, in some cases, members of the Venezuelan intelligence services have appeared at the homes of the people who were held in Sikot and forced them to record videos regarding their treatment in the United States. Human Rights Watch and Crystal Sol call on the U.S. government to end all transfers of third country nationalists to El Salvador. Will also urge foreign governments and international human rights bodies, including the United Nations Human Rights Council, to substantially step up their public scrutiny of United States human rights violations against migrants, as well as El Salvador's widespread human rights violations against detainees. We are not terrorists, we are migrants. One of the people held in Sikot said, we went to the El Salvador to seek protection and chance a better future, but we ended up in prison in a country we didn't even know, treated worse than animals. I find it absolutely insane how the right wing in El Salvador is allowing it to happen. It's not kept in secret, you know. Hell, even the Cristiano, they know about it. Everybody knows what it's about. It's gonna become like a Holocaust, another Holocaust, another genocide is like brewing up. And it's not even going to be like directed towards a small community. It's going to be directed at all people who are It's gonna be like a thought genocide. If you think about going against this administration, they'll throw you in prison. They'll throw you in a concentration camp. That's where it's heading to. Long read. Okay, let's do this. Niger bars U.S. citizens in reciprocal move to Washington's travel ban after the strikes that the U.S. did. Gotta stop eating these chocolates. So bad for me. Before reading that, I want to read this one on why they're bombing Niger. I'm not going to trust any American publication because I can't really trust the publications of the American government by the American news agencies. I'd rather read like Al Jazeera. What I feel is like generally really pretty truthful. Biased, every news publication is biased, but truthful is what matters to me more. That's right. Let me zoom in a little bit here. Make sure the birds are stuck in. There we go. Burps. US bombs target ISIL in Nigeria. What's really going on? Trump says northern strikes are related to Christian genocide, but attacks on Christian farmers have occurred in different parts of the country. The United States has launched powerful and deadly strikes against groups its claims are affiliated with ISIS in Nigeria, President Donald Trump said on Thursday. The unprecedented Christmas Day strikes came after weeks of accusations from Trump and top Republicans about an alleged Christian genocide they said had been enabled by the Nigerian government. They represent the first known direct U.S. military intervention in the troubled, convicted, racked country. Neither side has shared precise information about the identity of the targets struck, and the results of these strikes. Security analyst Kabir Adamu from Beacon Security and Intelligence in Abuja told Al Jazeera. The likely targets are members of the Lakurawa, an armed group linked to an offshoot of ISIL, which has only recently became known. Its profile is still being studied by researchers. One town which appeared to have been hit was Jabo in the northwestern Sokoto state, but no ISIL-linked cells are known to operate there. Furthermore, when Trump and other U.S. right-wingers have referred to a Christian genocide in Nigeria, they have usually mentioned an entirely different area called Nigeria. Oh, different area in central Nigeria. Launching the strike on Christmas Day, and the locations in northwest Nigeria where the Sokoto Caliphate, responsible for the spread of Islam into Nigeria and revered by Nigerian Muslims, is highly symbolic. Analyst Femi Owalade, or Owalade, not sure how that's pronounced, hopefully I'm not messing it up, of the UK Sheffield Hallam University told Al Jazeera, and plays into the Trump administration's narrative of saving Nigerian Christians. Striking on Christmas Day reinforces perceptions of a religiously motivated confrontation or a renewed religious crusade, he said. Here's what we know about the strikes. What happened? The US President Donald Trump revealed in a post on his Truth Social platform on Thursday night that the US had launched numerous perfect strikes on ISIS positions in northwest Nigeria. Tonight, at my direction as Commander-in-Chief, the United States launched a powerful and deadly strike against ISIS terrorist scum in northwest Nigeria, who had been targeting and viciously killing primarily innocent Christians at levels not seen for many years and even centuries. Trump did not disclose details about which or how many targets were hit, but he added that they would continue if the alleged slaughter of Christians did not stop. The U.S. Africa Command said in a statement that an initial assessment of the strikes that had revealed multiple ISIS terrorists were killed in the ISIS camps. U.S. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth thanked Nigeria for cooperating with the strikes. The U.S. is ready, though ISIS found out tonight. On Christmas, more to come, he said. He posted on social media platform X. In another post on X, the U.S. Department of Defense shared a video showing what appeared to be the moment a bomb was fired from the U.S. warship in an unmarked location. Conflict analyst Murtala Abdullahi of the Goro Initiative, who tracked serial activity in Nigeria, said it was likely that the U.S. had launched missiles from a position in the Gulf of Guinea. In a statement on Friday, Nigeria's Foreign Affairs Ministry confirmed the attacks and said they targeted elements based in the northwest of the country. Nigerian authorities have vehemently denied allegations of a Christian genocide, and the strikes had been carried out within an international cooperation framework that allows the sharing of intelligence and strategic coordination with the U.S. and others. Consistent with international law, mutual respect for sovereignty, and shared commitments to regional and global security. Speaking to Al Jazeera, Minister of Foreign Affairs Yusuf Tuggar said both parties closely cooperated on the attack, and the Secretary of the State had called in before the strikes were launched. Tuggar, however, added that Nigeria faces a complex security challenge that is also affecting other countries in that region, and the strikes were not religion-based. It is a regional conflict, and it is a regional conflict. It is not a Nigerian Christian-Muslim conflict, he said. What do we know about the targets? At least one town in Jabo in Nigeria, southern western Sokoto state, was confirmed to have been hit. Analyst Adamu said photos shared on social media by residents' work appear to confirm the location, with some posting what appears to be fragments of a bomb and other posting videos of a large fire on a farm. The information could not be independently verified by Al Jazeera. There were no casualties as of this morning, Adamu said, adding that it's unclear why Jabo was chosen, as there are no ISIL-linked terror cells there. Locals on social media were also questioned why their town had been targeted. A spokesperson for Nigerian Foreign Ministry told Al Jazeera that the strikes had been carried out based on intelligence provided by Nigeria. The strikes covered a precise area and what people are seeing are fragments that fell in Yabo, he said. Is ISIL operating in Nigeria? Yes. About 6 ideological armed groups exist in Nigeria, all of them linked to either ISIL or Al Qaeda. They have targeted both Christians and Muslim communities in the area operation in the country's predominantly Muslim northeast and northwest regions. The strikes on Thursday likely targeted a faction called the Lukarawa, which has recently emerged, and whose profile is still not fully known. Here are some factions explained. Boko Haram. The most recognized armed group is Boko Haram, which is based in Borno State, northeast Nigeria. The group gained international notoriety for kidnapping 300 schoolgirls from their dormitory in Chibok, Borno State, under leadership of Ibrahim Shekau in 2014. It was most active between 2012 and 2015. At the height of its activities, the group targeted military installations and civilians around Borno and the neighboring Yobe and Adamawa state. It also spread across the porous borders into Cameroon, Niger, and Chad. Or Niger. Boko Haram used suicide bombings and mass kidnapping tactics against both Christian and Muslim communities, attacking churches and mosques alike. Its main hideout was the Sambiza forest in Borno, but it also controlled large swaths of rural territory where it taxed locals and operated as a government. At least 30,000 people died and millions were displaced at the height of Boko Haram's operations. The group has been largely defeated by infighting and pressures from Nigerian military in 2015 and lost much of its territory it controlled. ISWAP, the ISIL affiliate in West Africa province, ISWAP, broke away from Boko Haram in 2016 following disagreements between top military leaders. The two groups have maintained a violent rivalry. ISWAP is believed to have between 8,000 and 12,000 fighters, according to United Nations. It is currently active around the Lake Chad Basin area in northeast Nigeria and has active cells in the northwest of the country. It controls local communities where it attempts to win support by providing basic amenities while taxing local farmers and fishermen. Lukarawa, a newly emerged faction, the group operates in remote parts of the country's northwest Sokoto state, including the Tangaza and Guru Ilela Binji Silame local governments. It is also present in northwest Zamfara and Kebbi states. Yabo, which is in Sokoto and was struck on Thursday, is known for harboring bandits, but an analyst says there is no strong presence of Lukarawa and other ISIL cells in the town. Nigerian officials confirmed the group's existence in November 2024 and designated it a terror group in January. Before its emergence, ragtag bandits had been targeting remote communities in Sokoto and neighboring Zamfara in 2017. Let me breathe. So far, I mean, the locations that were bombed were not even affected by these two conflicting wars or these two conflicts. It was more of a political attack more than religious attack, which is not surprising. It is not surprising. So there's more information to be released, but so far, these the two locations that were struck were not, or hold up, rewire a little bit. So, for instance, Gabo, there are Christians being attacked, but there are also Muslims being attacked. So it's not just a attack on the Christian community; it is also attack on the Muslim community that the ISIS cells are attacking. Making sure I'm remembering things. Continue on. In 2017, local leaders invited armed fighters from Mali and Niger, mostly from Fulani pastoral ethnic groups, to fight the bandits as government presence was failing to deter them, according to researchers James Barnet and Vincent Foucher. However, some of the arriving fighters were affiliated with armed groups operating in Niger and Mali, including the ISIL Sahel Province ISSP, known as the Islamic State General Sahara, or Greater Islamic State Greater Sahara. By 2018, the fighters had moved on from rescuing victims from bandits to enforcing Islamic law in villages. Lukarawa elements have grown bolder and more lethal in recent years, targeting security outposts. Researchers do not believe there is a single, homogeneous Lukarawa group, but suggest that many factions are being clumped together by the government, potentially hampering an effective response. Some also say the group's allegiance could be to Al Qaeda rather than ISIL. In 2024, a United Nations security report confirmed its presence of ISGS affiliates in northwest Nigeria, Sokoto State. It's unclear to what extent ISWAP and Lukarawa coordinate. Let's hear this here.
If you look at the attacks that Boko Haram and ISIS have launched over the last few weeks, they've originated from the south, from the northwestern part of the country. So it makes a lot of sense that that the strikes will take place in that part of the country. So this is nothing new. The surprise in the Nigerian case is that it's taking so long for the Nigerian authorities to do the rightful thing, which is to seek foreign assistance. Nigerian security experts have been calling on the Nigerian authorities to do exactly what it has just done. 3 weeks ago, I don't think there's anything new here. If anything, it's coming rather late, but it's very much welcome. In northeastern and northwestern Nigeria, there are so many of these groups, and they keep mutating. There's Boko Haram, there's ISWAP. Every day, there is almost a new group. I don't think there is anything wrong with the United States seeking collaboration of the Nigerian government to do what it is doing right now, insofar as ultimately this helps to bring relief to the victims of Boko Haram, who, keep in mind, are not just Christians, but are also Muslims and Nigerians of all stripes. If you look at the attacks,
I don't know. The reason I don't completely agree with the strikes is mostly because it comes from America. Whenever America strikes, its incentive is not good. So it's mostly America trying to pull resources. Could it be gold? Could it be precious metals? Could it be oil? We don't know yet. But there is a incentive of return. So America did not do this in the idea that they are relieving Nigerians. But we will see what they want from Nigeria. President Trump maintains that the U.S. strikes have been carried out to protect Christian communities in Nigeria. United States Senator Ted Cruz first accused Nigeria's government of enabling massacre against Christians in October 25, citing a rising number of attacks against the community in the country's central middle belt region, which is separate from violence in the north, he claims. Without proof that 50,000 Christians have been killed since 2009. In September, he introduced Nigeria Religious Freedom Accountability Act, which, if it passes Congress, would sanction Nigerian officials seen as complicit in the killing of Christians. Cruz was echoing claims from within Christian political right in the U.S. of a Christian genocide in Nigeria for past few years. Then in November, Trump also accused Nigeria of a Christian genocide, referring to ISIL and appearing to link the two separate issues. He also referred to Nigeria as a country of national concern. But while Cruz and other far-right U.S. voices identified the Middle Belt region of Nigeria as the site of alleged Christian genocide, the U.S. strikes on Thursday targeted a town in Nigeria predominantly Muslim north. Yabo is a largely Muslim town, and Muslim communities there have been large. I gotta work on my pronunciations. I gotta speak more eloquently, be able to read things and not have pauses in between, make sure I get my words correct. In due time, it will get better. Let me reread this last paragraph I just read. But while Cruz and other far-right U.S. voices identified the Middle Belt region of Nigeria as the site of alleged Christian genocide, the U.S. strikes on Thursday targeted a town in Nigeria's predominantly Muslim north. Yabo is a largely Muslim town, and Muslim communities there have been targets of bandits who kidnap them for ransom. What is really happening in Nigeria? The situation in Nigeria is far more complex than has been presented by Trump administration, which appears to conflate two separate issues. Nigeria is a vast country of 200 million people from more than 250 ethnic groups. It suffers not just at the hands of ideological armed groups, but also the result of ethno-religious violence. The Middle Belt region of the country, which Cruz referred to, has long been a hotbed of violence between predominantly Muslim herders from the majority of the Fulani ethnic group and the Christian farming communities from different minority ethnic groups, who have been repeatedly clashed over lands and water resources. The violence has grown in scale and weaponry over the past few years and largely targeted Christian farming communities. The farmers say herder groups attack their communities in lethal raids and sophisticated weapons, burn whole villages to the ground, and massacre civilians. They also target infrastructure like schools, clinics, grain reserves, churches, and boreholes. In May, Amnesty International reported that close to 10,000 people have been killed since 2023, including children in the worst affected state of Benue and Plateau, and that more than 500,000 people have been displaced. Nigeria's government has long tempted this local farmer herdman crisis, but the affected communities reject this classification, saying it oversimplifies the problem and means inadequate response. One community leader in Benue called recent killings a full-scale genocide invasion and land-grabbing campaign by herder terrorists and bandits. How much of a say did Nigeria have in the U.S. strikes? Like my sister. So far, what I've learned is that most attacks, most conflict here has been between land disputes and resource disputes. Very little about religious. Ethnic disputes, yes, but mostly land and land, mineral, oil, resources, and everything in between is the main conflict. Very little has to do with the religious aspects. And still, there is no, what is it? There is no, I can't think of the word. Evidence. No evidence of a genocide so far. Very good cake. It was like mousse and chocolate cake. Icing, chocolate chips. It was or it was very good though. Let's see. How much of a say did Nigeria have in the U.S. strikes? The Nigerian Foreign Ministry said that the strikes had been carried out with the consent of Nigeria locally. However, Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu has come under fire from opposition politicians who say the U.S. strikes represent a violation of the country's sovereignty. Judging by the nature of the confirmed strikes on a village in Sokoto, it is unclear that the U.S. president, under whose authority this operation occurred, neither understands nor genuinely cares about Nigeria or Nigerians. Amoyele Sowore, a former presidential candidate and leader of the African Action Congress, said in a statement on X, "It is deeply troubling that Nigeria, Africa's most populous nation, lacks the capability of sovereignty leadership requires to protect its people and its territory." Analyst Owalade told Al Jazeera it is unlikely that U.S. would launch strikes without Nigeria's green light, but pointed out that the way the U.S. has referred to the cooperation is quite different from how Nigeria is wording it. This suggests a cooperative but unequal partnership shaped by Nigeria's dependence on external intelligence and military capacity. And the U.S.'s desire to frame the tension in Africa and as a genocide against Christians and Project Counter U.S. resolve in the U.S. Africa, or the West Africa. Like, a little bit of a mucus situation going on. What's the history of US Nigeria security collaboration? The US has cooperated with Nigeria and other West African countries to combat the regional threat of armed groups, mainly through training and weapon sales. This is the first time the US has directly conducted airstrikes in Nigeria. However, during the peak of Boko Haram crisis, the US intensified training cooperation and supported Nigeria with intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance, especially under the Joint Multinational Joint Task Force. The group includes Nigeria, Niger, Chad, Cameroon, and Benin, which are all connected by Lake Chad and which are all experiencing armed incursions. However, the Joint Task Force has begun to break down. Niger's military government has been at odds with Nigeria's since June 2023, when the military there seized power. Niger is also at odds with the US and Western partners like France. In August 2024, the US military began withdrawing from its important bases in the country from where it monitored armed groups in the Sahel. Niger pulled out of the MNJTF in April, and Chad is threatening to withdraw. Analysts from the Institute of Security Studies link the coalition's breakdown to increase armed group activity across the region. So again, the US is part of this uprising of groups, of terror cells, because they've pretty much taught them how to fight. Yep. Look at the, they say correlation is not causation, but there is a strong correlation here. Niger pulled out of the MNJTF in April, and Chad is threatening to withdraw. Analysts from the Institute for Security Studies link the coalition's breakdown to increased armed group activity across the region. So the United States has taught these guys how to be militarized, and armed group activity has been growing since then. What does the United States want? Niger. And following that, Niger bars US citizens in reciprocal move to Washington's travel ban. Niger has announced an immediate and indefinite suspension of entry for US nationals, presenting the move as sovereign and reciprocal response to Washington's latest travel restrictions. Oh man. Excuse me. Citing a diplomatic source, ANP said Nigerians authorities have halted the issuance of visas to citizens of the United States, effectively barring Americans from entering the country. The decision follows a recent move by Washington to place Niger on a list of states whose nationals are denied entry into the U.S. In December, the White House expanded its full entry ban to include Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, South Sudan, Syria, Laos, and Sierra Leone. Citing security and vetting concerns, the measures are expected to take effect at the start of 2026. Niger's response mirrors the U.S. actions and signals that Niamey will no longer accept unilateral restrictions imposed on its citizens without reply. Officials and commentators in Niger have framed the visa ban as a matter of dignity and equal treatment, stressing that freedom of movement should not be politicized or weaponized against some countries already bearing the brunt of the conflict, sanctions, and external pressure. Sovereignty through reciprocity. God, I can't say these words. Sovereignty through reciprocity. The dispute unfolds against the backdrop of a broader deterioration in the U.S. and Niger relations following the 2023 political transition in Niamey. Since then, Niger's authorities have moved to recalibrate foreign partnerships including ending long-standing military arrangements with Washington and completing the withdrawal of U.S. forces from Nigerian territory in 2024. The shift has been justified domestically as a part of wider efforts to reclaim national decision-making and reduce dependency on Western security frameworks. With this context, Niger's visa decision is widely viewed as consistent with its broader push to assert sovereignty in the Sahel. Rather than symbolic gesture, the ban reflects Niamey's position that international relations must be based on reciprocity and respect. Honestly, good on them. It's fine. This honest, a moment. I gotta think about this. The ban on U.S. citizens and and most likely UN nationals or U.S. nationals is kind of reflecting on how much Niger had, how much say they had in these strikes. It was very little. I'm pretty sure Niger didn't even want these strikes. But the fact that the United States went along with it, this really made him really consider putting these bans in, is what I'm assuming. So what I'm assuming here is that Niger had very little say in the strikes that happened in Sokoto and in Jabo. Hope I'm saying them right. So Niger had very little say in the strikes that U.S. committed, which is why they're moving to put these bans in place, which should have happened anyways. Like right when the U.S. barred citizens from Niger to move into the United States, Niger should have done the same travel ban as well. Oh, that was a good long read. Enjoyed that one. Speaking about foreign affairs here, Trump overturned decades of U.S. trade policy in 2025. See the impact of his tariffs in 4 charts. Zoom in a little more, as always. Wait till like... Okay, that's fine enough. Since returning to the White House in January, President Donald Trump has overturned decades of U.S. trade policy, building a wall of tariffs around what used to be a wide open economy. His double-digit taxes on imports from almost every country have disrupted global commerce and strained the budgets of consumers and businesses worldwide. They have also raised tens of billions of dollars for the U.S. Treasury. Trump has argued that his steep new import taxes are necessary to bring back wealth that was stolen from the US. He says that will narrow America's decades-old trade deficit and bring manufacturing back to the country. But upending the global supply chain has proven costly for households facing rising prices. The taxes are paid by importers who typically attempt to pass along the higher cost to their consumers. That includes businesses and ultimately U.S. households. And the erratic way the president rolled out his tariffs, announcing them, then suspending or altering them before conjuring up new ones, made 2025 one of the most turbulent economic years in recent history. Here's a look at the impact of tariffs or Trump tariffs over the years in 4 charts. Effective U.S. tax tariff rate. A key number for the overall impact of tariffs on U.S. consumers and businesses is the effective tariff rate, which, unlike headline figures imposed by Trump for specific trade actions, provides an average based on actual imports coming into the country. U.S. tariff rates remain elevated through 2025 after peaking in April. Yeah, so after, oh my god, 26%. So they've been up. Tariff rates have been up. In 2025, per data from the Yale Budget Lab, the effective U.S. tariff rate peaked in April, but it's still far higher than the average seen at the start of the year. Before finalizing shifts in consumption, November's effective tariff rate was nearly 17 times greater than January's average, and the highest seen since 1935. Tariff revenue versus America's trade deficit. Among selling points to justify the tariffs, Trump has repeatedly said they would reduce America's long-standing trade deficit and bring revenue into the treasury. Odd. There's like there's so little. Tariffs collected, 30.8 billion, I'm assuming? Yeah, billion. Ooh. Still haven't gotten this report yet. In January, one of the largest. So we're missing 136.4 billion. Okay. Trump's higher tariffs are certainly raising money. They've raked in more than 236 billion this year through November, much more than the years past, but they still account for just a fraction of the federal government's total revenue. And they haven't raised nearly enough to justify president's claim that tariff revenue could replace federal income taxes or allow for windfall dividend checks for Americans. The U.S. trade deficit, meanwhile, has fallen significantly since the start of the year. The trade gap peaked into a monthly record of 136.4 billion in March. And consumers and businesses hurried to import foreign products before Trump could impose his tariffs on them. The trade gap narrowed to 52.8 billion in September, the latest month for which data is available, but the year-to-date deficit was still running 70% of the January, ahead of January and September. Import shifts with America's biggest trading partners. In 2025, tariffs hit nearly every country in the world, including America's biggest trading partner, I need a moment. Yo, that kick fucked me up, dude. What was in that cake, man? Oh. That cake. was all the sugar I was eating. Like, fucking hell. I'm having a sugar crash. I think I'm gonna scroll on Twitter just a little bit more, and then switch over to finish this article. I don't want to drink another coffee, but I know it'll give me negative effects. A fun little spell I found. Like an egg. Where were we? The Trump's 2025 hit. 20... Never mind, I'm not ready. I'm not ready! Ugh. No more sweets for me. No more sweets for me. I'm done with them. Might have to hit a double workout tomorrow. Ugh. Oh my goodness. Wait, it still works. Okay. Amazing. So stupid. Oh man. The fuck? Where'd it go? Trump's 2025 tariffs hit nearly every country in the world, including America's biggest trading partners, but his policies have had the biggest impact on the US trade with China. Once the biggest source of American imports, and now number 3 behind Canada and Mexico, US tariffs on Chinese imports now come to a 47.5%, according to calculations by Chad Bowen and Peterson Institute for International Economics. China had the largest drop of US imports in 2025. Year-to-date imports from 5 countries that supply the most goods to the US. So the 2025 import value was pretty much 400. Canada was 300. China was more like 240. Vietnam was 140. Taiwan about 130. Yeah. So China had almost 100 points more. Oh my god. The value of goods incoming into the US from China fell nearly 25% during the first quarters of the year. Imports from Canada also dropped, but the value of products from Mexico, Vietnam, and Taiwan grew year to date. I mean, the tariffs on these countries are not even any way similar to what China got hit with. For investors, the most volatile moments on the stock market this year arrived amid some of the most volatile moments for Trump's tariffs. April 4th's losses arrived 2 days after Trump's Liberation Day announcement and amid escalating trade war with China. Oh my god, Argentina lost almost 6 points. Trump paused the most reciprocal rates on April 9, hours after telling investors it was a great time to buy. March saw tension with China, Canada, and Mexico, new steel and aluminum tariffs, auto tariffs, announcement of threats of Liberation Day levies, largest monthly losses almost 6 points. La, 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 la. June was marked for several framework deals, notably with China and the UK. The S&P 500, an index for the biggest public companies in the US, saw its biggest daily and weekly swing in April, and largely monthly losses and gains in March and June. Ugh. God. Oh, wait, this have comments on them? Wait, it's big. Who needs charts? Just go to the store and see stuff like the cans of coffee that used to be $5 and now $18. Ooh. Dugan Jones. Inflation is still higher than Fed target. Why isn't it higher as logic predicted due to tariffs passed on by companies to consumers? Easy. The companies are eating the tariff. Outright. Shrinkflation. Many products have an increase in price, but rather the same price now buys you less. Check the repackaging going on. Exports from other countries imported to the US have repackaged smaller so they can eat tariffs for now. I mean, it's in essence that is still it's still more expensive. You're getting less for the same amount of price. That's still expensive as fuck. Trump definitely has an ego and says crazy stuff. God. But inflation is less than 3% and the trade deficit is getting smart. GDP growth more good for the country. It's expensive, dude. Your shit's getting more expensive. And it's not because the border is secure. That's not where you're getting more that's not why things would be less expensive. More borders doesn't mean less expensive products. Fuck you, Connecticut Mike. He says these things like he's not paying more for groceries, which fucking meat has gone up like hundreds of percents. America didn't stop producing value, it started producing different kind of value, and our old scoreboards don't measure it well. Once you properly account for intangible software R&D, data, organizational capital, the US has not been hollowed out. It has been recapitalizing it in invisible forms. Intangible investment rivals or exceeds tangible tangible. This is unintelligent. Measure in whatever units want. Trade statistics are simply a unit of measure. Good service and intellectual property, unfortunately. Unfortunately, IP theft has been a real problem. Taxes are paid by importers who typically attempt to pass along higher costs. What the heck? Tariffs haven't raised nearly enough to justify. Oh my god. Yes, we need more. We need more tariffs. That's exactly what we need. Dugan is back for a fucking. He's back for revenge. Oh man, we're getting fucked over. Alright, that's it for news today. I'm gonna play some Valorant. We're gonna get mad even further than what we are now. And it'll be a good time. It'll be a very good time. I have to use the restroom though. I have to very bad. Boom. Which is up here.